So I think Ghostbusters is the best thing I've ever been involved with. I think the budget is a huge responsibility because I serve as both the producer and director usually. It was a great help. I also believe that you make the films. I don't really think about the budget except in terms of what it means for when I break even. There'd be no way to do this film for anything but what we paid for it if we wanted this cast as well. The only saving, one could have a cast of unknowns and it would still cost upwards of 20 plus. We were I like to think of ourselves as a family or of sorts that we have worked together for 8 or 9 years now. So that does lend to shortcuts in terms of, well, there's a fair amount of trust amongst us, and there is a quickness of language. If Bill has an idea, I can grasp it very quickly, and I know how to get him to go beyond the idea quickly, and vice versa. He understands, I just use key phrases with him, 2 or 3 words that can shift the performance tremendously. All of them come from a sort of a second city or a similar background where they do a lot of their writing, and a lot of the writing originally came from an improvisational approach. This had a very tight script. As you can tell, there's a very fairly complex and solid plot.
No, it's true.
There's really no room for screwing around. What we would do, and what I've always done, whether it was a comedy film or a horror movie film with David Cronenberg, is I felt that whatever was on the script it was not necessarily the final thing. And while the cameraman would set up, or the day before, if it was going to be a more serious look, I would rehearse with the actors, and then every line was up for question.
Good.
And a lot of things would be dropped, and occasionally entire scenes would be rewritten totally. Usually not for meaning, but for humor, because virtually all of us are involved in the writing anyway. And it's not necessarily just the people who are involved in the scene who are involved in the recreation of the lines. Mm-hmm. I gather the whole creative group together to focus in on this one man's problem. Mm-hmm. It means, gives me a lot of support. It's great. There was no script shown to the studio at the time that they committed for the film. The most extraordinary story about this is basically they committed $30 million on the basis of myself with Bill and Dan in a concept that I explained in 5 minutes called Ghostbusters.
Yes.
I think it's a combination of our collective track records, and I think it sounded like a real good idea. Their only concern was that I get the film out by June the 8th.
Right.
And we all realized that it was going to be an impossible schedule because the effects considerations usually require 3 times the length of time. Yes. This is probably in the top 5 in complexity effects films of all time. It has as many effect shots as Star Wars.
Star Wars. It really had.
It's not just that there was a lot of effect shots. We decided right from the idea would be that this wouldn't work unless it was really state of the art in terms of the effects. And then beyond that, I basically looked at it that I was not making an effects film, but I was making a comedy. And the way I looked at it, my major influence on the script was that it's not a science fiction effects movie, but the story of 3 guys who go into business for themselves and then do extraordinarily well. And using that as the sort of mental approach to it really helped control the 1941ism of it, that we didn't let the stunts and the effects run away with the picture.
Right.
So, it doesn't really get full-blown until the last 20 minutes.
Yeah.
Then I believe it's time to let it all out. One of the ways that I work is that I'll screen the movie 8 or 9 times for just random audiences that we bring into the studio, and sort of demographically mixed so that it's not loaded one way or the other.
Right.
And I do my editing that way. I really focus the film for effect. Well, it's the first time I've worked with Shelley Kahn, and if I can help it, I'll keep working with him for as long as I can. Oh, he's a great editor. I edited those first David Cronenberg films myself. I'm used to cutting my own films, and I have this great impatience. I just want to get it. I want to get it into shape enough so I can start showing it off, so that then I can fix it further. As a matter of fact, one of the most interesting things we did with this film, going back to my concept that this is not an effects movie, and to sort of test myself and the movie, I decided that immediately once we got the first cut, which was about 3 weeks after I finished filming, we would show it to an audience without any effects in it whatsoever. So we had an audience of 200 kids that we invited to Columbia. Actually, it was aged 15 to about 40. And I made a little speech saying, this is both a comedy and sort of an effects extravaganza, except none of the effects extravaganza is going to be here today. And they all booed, you know. Yeah. And I said, what you're going to see is there's about 200 effect shots, of which 5 were in the film. You're going to see a little sign that says "Scene Missing," or you will only see the plate, the background plate. And to give you a clue that it's a background plate, it'll be in black and white. It's all that stuff was shot 70 millimeters. So to make it easy, we just put a black and white work print into our cutting copy until we received the an effect in it. And we just showed the film that way, and it worked really well. I mean, it doesn't work the way it works right now. Well, it doesn't have that, you know, but it worked as a real good comedy, you know, all the applause points and all the big laughs were exactly in the same place they are now. You know, the amplitude has shifted, and we have additional big things based on effects that we didn't have then. So I was then comfortable that I had a movie, and then it was much easier for me to focus on making. Well, I focused first of all on getting that tight, and then slowly, it's such a minor financial consideration. I mean, a screening costs $300 or $400. Well, Shelley Kahn, the editor, is very facile. He had his cut all through shooting. He would cut, and I would spend an hour with him a day if I could. That's what made it possible. Well, when we were shooting on a lot, there were certain situations where we had really big lighting setups that took like hours at a time. So I had my own little cart, and I would just hop in, rush over to the editing room, spend 45 minutes, an hour there, leave, go do another shot, come back again. See, now that the film was finished, we didn't get all the effect shots in until last week. And in fact, 3 of the ones you saw on Wednesday night are still being replaced with slightly more, more perfect ones. This has been particularly frustrating because it's worked out so well, and we've had to move so quickly that I've not had really a chance to reflect on them very much. And that's really where Shelley and I have both been very frustrated. It's just there's been no thinking time.
Right.
It's been all on instinct. I'm always looking for the laugh and looking for something humorous and how to accentuate that. But first came the story and the characters, and everything had to be true to that. And I felt the way that this movie should work is that you should believe everything could happen. Once you accepted the premise that ghosts exist, which is the way we set the film off, we don't even question it.
Yeah.
We just say, here they are, they're around, and I believe an audience will accept anything you tell them to as long as you don't break the rules later on. Now, the big leap, of course, comes at the end of the film, where we create this 100-foot marshmallow man. And it was the thing that was the most frightening for me at the script stage, because it's the one that it's an extraordinary left turn suddenly. And I always wanted to make sure that we had enough basis in reality that we could then sort of just take it. See, I didn't want to suddenly make the film surreal. I wanted it to be that there was this creature and it was really in this real place. And well, we had the first screening where we actually had it, because the first bunch of screenings we had, there was nothing there.
Well, God.
You can imagine how rough it was to screen the movie with no creatures in it.